now for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. The NBA playoffs are finally here. The 2018 NBA playoffs, let me be more specific, are finally here. Now, you all have heard me say a million times, ad nauseum, one guy said to me, that the overall style of play in the NBA is atrocious. But last night did not disappoint, for the most part anyway. Now, was it due to or because of the playoff implications? Maybe so. But I ain't mad. For the first time in a long time, I was actually interested in seeing a few of the games slated to come on, and I was able to watch them from start to end. Now, when is the last time you could say that? All season long. How many games have you been able to watch from the beginning to the end? Not many. So let's hope that this year's playoffs don't disappoint. Because, again, we all know, like last year, not having it. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start off in the West with the 1-8 seeds. And then we're going to slide over to the East, 1-8. Then we're going to drop back over to the West, 4-5, so on and so forth. The Houston Rockets have the number 1 seed and have had the number 1 seed or been the top in the West all season long. And I understand the conversation surrounding James Harden and LeBron James in this MVP race, as the season, waned down, things got heated, based on the whose numbers are here and whose numbers are there, who would win and who shouldn't and all of that. To me, that's, how can I say, that's just adding to the drama. Some of the conversation surrounding that was just, I'm not going to even use a word for it because, my mama said, don't be nice. But we're not here to talk about the MVP race. Whoever gets it is whoever gets it. I just say nowadays it's an empty award. And it started off being that way, in recent memory for me when Steve Nash won it twice. There's no way in the world. That was a political thing. It's no way in the world Steve Nash was better than Kobe Bryant. Neither one of them years, but I digress. The Houston Rockets come in at 65-17. But the question to me surrounding the Rockets is this. We know what Chris Paul can bring. We know what James Harden can bring. Capella on the interior has been an interesting story so far this year. He's been solid. Ariza, and it goes on down the line. Mike D'Antoni's style of offense is high scoring. It's high powered. And I got to admit, I'm kind of surprised that the Rockets are just outside of the top 10. I think they're 11th in terms of points allowed. You all know, and I will say this ad nauseum, I am a stickler for defense. I'm not going to say, defense wins championship, offense wins games. That's, nice to say. But if you sit there watching it, you'll see you got to get stops. Right? Use your defense to create your offense. But we all know in the Today BA, it's the other way around. And the Rockets are one of the best teams at this other way around. But let's be honest. As good as Chris Paul is, we've seen him in a squad that he's been on blow a 3-1 lead, because there's been a lot of that here lately in the last couple of years. A lot of teams been blowing big leads, series leads, okay? So, what's tried and true right now, okay? We've seen James Harden blow big leads and, for the most part, not show up in big games. See, the playoffs, of course, is a different animal. It's a new season. Everything you did in the regular season in its totality will not carry over to the postseason. You can only pack a few things. The Rockets' track record is suspect. I'm sorry. I know what their record this year says. But their track record in the playoffs, whether it's Chris Paul or James Harden or whoever it is, whether they together, separate or not, they just don't get it done at times. Now, I think they'll win this series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I would not be surprised if when it's all said and done that the T-Wolves then beat up on these dudes so bad that they battered and bruised going into the next round. I'm just saying. Because while the Rockets have 65 wins on the season, they could very well be the sixth team in NBA history to win 65 games and not win the title. Joining, of course, the 2016 Warriors, who won 73 games, the 2008 Cavaliers, who won 66 games, the 06 Mavericks won 67 games, the 71 Celtics won 68, and the 2015 Spurs won 67 and did not win the title. So, just because you win more games in the regular season than anybody else does not guarantee success in the playoffs. You get what I'm saying? On the flip side, the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's been, well, should I say their last playoff appearance was 2004. So it's been 14 years. And I have one question. We know what Karl Anthony Towns can do. For the most part, we know what Andrew Wiggins can do. But this T-Wolves team is driven by none other than Jimmy Butler. That's right. JB. Tom Thibodeau, with this squad, is not the Wolves under Tom Thibodeau, let me say it that way, are not the defensive stalwart that they were or his Chicago Bulls teams were. This Minnesota Timberwolves team can score, believe it or not. Do they have enough to knock off the Rockets? No, I don't think so. But they do have enough in Butler, Towns, and Wiggins to make it very interesting. Sliding over to the East, we got the number 1 seed Toronto Raptors versus the number 8 seed Washington Wizards. Listen, for me, the Raptors, we know what DeRozan going to bring you, right? And Casey changed up his style of play, the way his team plays. They play more of a fundamental, balanced, both ends of the floor type game. But the Raptors, they have moments where on the other end and on that end where you got to get the stop, man, they have lapses that they shouldn't have. And then not to mention, they'll go 4 or 5 or 6 possessions taking bad shots that allows other teams to get back in it. That's not good going into the playoffs. But I will say this. For them, the number 1 seed has a little bit more meaning. Because this is the first time in the franchise's history that they've got the number 1 seed. But my question is, will the lingering thought of last season's second round 4-0 drubbing by the Cavs derail this season's ultimate goal? So in other words, will that 4-0, will they be so intent on getting back to the Cavs or possibly seeing the Cavs because of what happened last year that they overlook a Wizards team or get to the next round and overlook the next team? You know what I mean? You know, trying to get to the Cavs or whatever it is in the Eastern Conference Finals. I believe they'll see each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. But the point is, no, I'm sorry, they'd meet the Cavs in the next round. Sorry about that. Don't overlook the Washington Wizards is my point. The Raptors can't do that. They're not built for that. They have to, as I've said before, make it so that every possession counts. When it comes for them, you know, time for them to score, and that every possession doesn't count for the Wizards. Because on the Wizards side of things, we all know John Wall and Bradley Beal, you know, they wanted the best 1-2 combinations in this NBA. But make no mistake about it. It's Wall and Beal or bust. Gortat is too finessed for playoff basketball. You watch Gortat when they, you know, that pick and roll they do with him, he'll catch it and just turn and just toss it up. He has no, I don't know, wherewithal, I guess. I can't find a word right now. That when he catches the ball, he doesn't look and then do. He just does. And a lot of times that's a wasted trip for the Wizards when they give it to him. It has, when they do the pick and roll with him, it has to be, when he come off that roll and they give it to him, it has to be a clean, clear look. Otherwise, he get caught up with it sometime. And I don't think that they have enough depth. And again, excuse me, the way that the Wizards play, they're just too much of an enigma. You want to talk about a team that don't play no defense? My gosh, I don't even think they know how to spell it over there in Washington. We slide back over to the West and take a look at the 4-5 matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Utah Jazz. I'm going to say it right here, right now. Russell Westbrook is the key. Yes, he is. Russell Westbrook is the key. You know why I say he's the key? They've had their fair share, the Thunder had, of the drama headlines. But when I say Westbrook is the key, I'll say it like this. He's the little engine that can and will, if that floor general gene kicks in. Because there's no more tenacious a player in the NBA right now than him. He's the most dynamic player than him. But what I'd like to see him do is, in this playoffs, and he's capable, is two things. One, play more without the ball in your hands. Now, will it have to come from Donovan? I don't know. Can he go to Donovan and suggest? Maybe. Let Paul George handle the ball in certain situations and let Russ play off the ball, because he causes more of a problem to a defense when he without the ball in his hands as he does. And I mean, he still causes it with the ball in his hands, but I think it would be more of an impact him playing without the ball in his hands. If he can consistently show how to control the tempo, I feel sorry for anybody in front of these dudes. While their bench is not as strong, and that's a key component in the playoffs, we talked about that, as most teams, East or West, he more than makes his style of play by himself more than makes up for not having a deep bench like the other teams that do. But his problem, man, his decision making in certain situations leaves a lot to be desired. And I understand it, because he wanted so bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes he goes too hard. I can't even believe I'm saying that, because the idea is to go hard or go home. But you got to know how to pace yourself, so to speak. You know what I mean? You can still have an impact without always jumping high and thinking you're going to run fast. Use the IQ more so than the athleticism and the talent is all I'm saying. But trust me, these dudes, man, they ain't nothing to mess with, these Oklahoma City Thunder. Not if they play it right. The Utah Jazz, they go as Donovan Mitchell. Yes, Gobert is nice. And I'm, to be honest with you, the Jazz are a surprising. They rank second in defense, in total defense, in points allowed. They only allow just a shade under 100 at 99.5 or something or another. But again, if rookie sensation Donovan Mitchell, should he have one bad game in this series, it could be over sooner rather than later. Like I said, Gobert help, but Rubio is, for a point guard, I just don't get these point guards in the NBA who can do everything else for the most part, but shoot a foul line jump shot consistently. That boggles my mind. Like Rondo. Rondo knows how to control tempo. He got all the other floor general, quote unquote, qualities. But it's like, that's a basic fundamental. You're a professional. You should be able to knock down consistently a foul line jump, a 15-footer, 12-footer, whatever it is. You should be able to knock that down. Because by not being able to knock that down, whether it's Rondo or Rubio or whatever other guards you can think of that can't do it, you allow defenses to sag off of you, therefore clogging up the space necessary for the other four guys that you're trying to get the ball to. Now, Rondo, how he does it without, you know what I'm saying, with the 5-on-4, so to speak, getting 17 dimes, 27 dimes. I'm being facetiousizing here, but you get the idea. How he can do all that other stuff without that is, I'm tripping. I ain't gonna. I'm tripping. But the Jazz don't stand. Rubio, the Jazz, they just don't stand a chance. Maybe next year. They need to add a few more, especially the depth, on that bench. They can't roll with the Thunder. Steven Adams is going to be a problem for Gobert in the middle. And then again, you got Melo and Paul George. Let Westbrook play with a balance with them two other dudes and Adams. Once again, not only do the Jazz not have a chance, and there'll be some moments for the Jazz, but I don't think anybody else will either. Hey, I digress. Now we slide on over, of course, back to the East, the 4-5 matchup between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers. Let me say this. For all you out there who was doing all that jaw-jacking about seeding don't matter, and, I don't care if we the first seed or the 8th seed. And true, hey, I believe it was 1996, the Seattle Supersonics with Gary Payton, Detlef Schrempf, Hershey Hawkins, Sean Kemp got knocked off by the 8th seed Denver Nuggets with Mutombo, Robert Pack. Okay, so it can happen. And in more recent memory, I believe the Golden State Warriors knocked off the Mavericks. Oh, no, the Mavericks knocked off the Warriors, or one of the two. I don't have it in front of me right now. But, so it can happen. A lower seed, so to speak, or a seed, if you're not seeded that high, doesn't mean you won't advance or that you can't win. That's not what I'm suggesting here. But if you are an upper echelon team, supposedly, then you play the regular season to be at the top seed. So I don't want to hear that, it don't matter where we come from and all, because the Cavs have been suspect all season long on that end. They've been at 25, if not lower, all season long in allowing other folks to score. You do that in the playoffs, and you're going to be shown the door. I don't care how glamorous your roster is. I don't care how much the headlines, you out front and center. I don't care about none of that. You're going to be sitting at the house. The Pacers, as a whole, are a classic case for style of play. When they're focused, especially Lance Stevenson, they can play with just about anybody. And when they're not, they stink. Put them on the curb with the rest of the trash. Man, when they serious, Lance Stevenson and Victor Oladipo, you don't want to see that train coming at you. I'm telling you right now, you do not want to see that train coming at you. Oladipo, I don't know what award he's up for this year, whether it's, most improved player or whatever the case may be. I don't get that deep into it. But I'll tell you this, man, that dude is a problem. And don't overlook the Pacers now. Don't overlook them, because that could be a mistake. I'm telling these Cavs fans, and I'm telling the Cavs in general, hey, the Cavs have what many say the best to ever play. And like I said, at the same time, they're ranked 27th, to be specific, in points allowed, giving up 109 per. But here's the killer part. On the flip side, they're shooting 37% on the year from three. Go figure. Will it hold up is the question. So the key to the Cavs is how well they play in defense and how well they shooting that three ball. If they don't play, if their defensive woes continue and they're not shooting the three ball well, guess what? I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers win it, because they are more than capable. Do they match up with them? I'll say the matchup is, that whole matchup thing is 50-50 when it comes to that. But you can't make a mistake against the Pacers, is my point. Not the Cavs, not nobody. Because, hey, they mess around and you find that, they get a lead and they start looking and start feeling themselves, and then all of a sudden you at the house and they moving on. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Sliding back over to the West, we're going to take a look at the number 3 seed Portland Trail Blazers and the number 6 seed New Orleans Pelicans. First of all, kudos to the Pelicans for getting in. A lot of folks said the Pelicans were a done deal when Boogie went down. Apparently not. Even without Cousins, a battle-tested Rondo, as I mentioned earlier or talked about before, with AD should be interesting TV. So I'm looking at how well the Blazers handle Davis versus how well the Pelicans deal with McCollum and Lillard, because that, I believe, will determine the outcome in this series. Had Boogie been there, it would have been real nice to see how the Blazers could handle both of them cats on the inside, but again, how well the Pelicans could handle the Blazers' backcourt, because the Blazers, McCollum and Lillard, they be blazing. I mean, come on now. They got a dynamic scoring duo in them two. But again, as a team, they give up darn near 103 as much as they get 105. I say ISO ball alert for the Blazers, for McCollum and Lillard. Utilizing Nurkic. That's right. On the inside. Gives them a balance. Their team assists, 19.5 per, would suggest otherwise. So, you only as a unit getting under, just a shade under 20 a game on the assist side. That tell me, boy, it's a lot of folk over there. You know, it's a lot of ISO going on. A lot of ISO going on, and that's not good. Got to get them team assists up. Not going to beat New Orleans being out front with the rock all the time. It's not going to work. And we all know AD is playing above and beyond right now this season, because for a minute he was in the MVP conversation. Now, what happened to that? I have no idea. But I'm glad to see that the Pelicans are in the playoffs. And I think, well, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they knocked the Blazers off. I really wouldn't. Rondo is, like I said, playoff. He's battle tested. He know how to control the game, and that's really what the playoff. That's what's important right now in the playoffs. The guards. Do you have a facilitator? Despite not being able to hit a foul line jump shot, and I cringe every time I have to say that, Rondo is a floor general. He got all the other floor general qualities. And when he's playing at a high level in the playoffs, man, ain't no telling whatever team he on. Hey, if I was to look up and people, man, you know the Pelicans beat the Blazers. Oh, okay. It wouldn't shock me. Not one bit. Now we go back to the East and look at the 3-6 matchup. The Philadelphia 76ers at 3. And, of course, the 6th seed Miami Heat. Despite their early season success, or the regular season success, I should say, the Sixers are a conundrum, or should I say, are the conundrum of all conundrums, but in a good way. They play with a balance offensively that you don't see out of young teams. Throw in their spacing, and I'm hard-pressed to say how you devise a defensive strategy that works to stop them. Then again, on the flip side, they shooting 75% from the line. See, that's one of my translatables now. A lot of these games and what your end result going to be in these games is determined by what you do at that foul line. Ben Simmons, talented. Talented. Can do this, can do that within the flow of the game. But his jump shot is questionable and his free throw shooting is questionable. So in this instance, I want to know what aspect will outweigh the other. Will it be their spacing and the offensive balance, or will it be the free throw percentage? As a team, And in particular, because he got the ball in his hands, as he should, he's the point guard, his jump shooting. But I tell you, if folk let him, and I don't think the Heat gonna do that. See, if folk let him just roam through and and do whatever he want to do, then it's gonna be an easy one for the Sixers. Yeah, but I don't think the Heat will do that. So that free throw line, in particular being, and as a team, could ultimately, lead to their demise. It's a lot of folks, despite picking them, to not only make it to the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, a lot of folks picking them to make it to the finals. I don't see. Now, if that happens, I will be surprised. And I say that in particular because regular season, don't get so caught up in regular season records, okay? You can't pack everything, like I said, when you go to these playoffs. When the year Jordan hit the shot in the regular season that year, the Cavs had beat the Bulls 6 straight times. They were 6-0 against the Bulls that year. And in the end, what did it mean? Not a thing. Because Mike went to another level, and Elo was on the court holding his head and crying. That's just how it be sometimes. So, the Sixers, they look like they can do it. They do. But as a young team, as balanced as they are, will the bright lights be too much? I don't know. As for the Heat, even though they no longer boast the Heatles, as in recent memory, they still have a grizzled veteran in D. Wade. And along with Eric Spoelstra, who I believe turned out to be pretty decent as a head coach, these young Heat are scrappy. No quit. If you do, Philadelphia, manage to come out the victor, you're going to be battered and bruised going into the next round. Guaranteed. I couldn't even tell you who owned the Miami Heat outside of Dwayne Wade right now. And Hassan Whiteside. But rest assured, man, these dudes, they're going to come to play. And believe it or not, they too could be a surprise. Not necessarily get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But the next round, they're going to make it even harder. Should they get to the next round, they're going to make it even harder for whoever it is in front of them. They don't take plays off, like we've seen here in recent memories from some players in certain teams. Now we slide back over to the West, and we're going to take a look at the 2-7 matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the 7-seeded San Antonio Spurs. We all know what the storyline here is, right? Kawhi Leonard last year got zaza'd. No Kawhi Leonard. As much as the Spurs are tried and true in the system that everybody talks about when it comes to Greg Popovich, it's unfortunate for the Spurs that Kawhi will be unavailable to exact what I like to say some measure of redemption for being zaza'd. And in all actuality, it's an injury that may make it so that we never see him in a Spurs uniform again. There'll be a tough out, but the key is Gasol and Aldridge. I know Rudy Gay over there doing his thing or whatever the case may be, but as skilled as Aldridge and Gasol are, combined, they are not the anchor Tim Duncan was in the paint. Aldridge can hit fadeaways. Gasol is Gasoft, and he's been Gasoft when he was with the Lakers. He's just tall. I don't get that either, just because a guy tall, what I mean? Yeah, but he, and they say, well, he's 38. I don't know what his age is, but I do know, no, Gasol ain't going, that's not going to cut it. Aldridge is skilled, but he get pushed around too much, man. Tim would get in that block, and you wasn't moving him. Then he had a variety, an array, an arsenal of, his weapon, you don't know what Timmy was going to do. And he was, Shaq called him the big fundamental. Okay? When you can hold your own against Shaq, especially when Shaq was in his prime, that's saying something. I just don't see that from this Spurs go around. Yes, Ginobili and Parker. They get you. Father Time catches up with everybody. Father Time is undefeated. And despite the Warriors being battered, bruised, beat up, who knows if Steph going to play in the first round? What we can do is kill all that noise about Kevin Durant being the best player in the league and all that kind of stuff, because he had a chance once again to prove without Steph that he could do his thing, and he didn't. I'm not saying that's not a knock on his talent. He is. Okay? But, like the Tin Man, you know what I mean? You got to open up that chest cavity and see what's really going on. But even still, I don't think that the Spurs, not this season, and their offensive efficiency and where they at defensively, because they pretty good too, I don't think they beat the Warriors. The Warriors are just too deep. Like I say, it's something to be said for that, because, again, I believe it was 2014. Your bench is crucial in the playoffs. Go look at the Spurs that year when they 4-1 the Heat. Their bench averaged a million points a game. I mean, they just was – it was – they threw theirs in the hat, and it was a wrap after that, So, and the Warriors are that deep. They are. They didn't have to make some lineup adjustments and things of that nature. And don't get it twisted about how they finished the season. Not the Warriors. They play for bigger things. All right? And in this case, I think they'll beat the Spurs more handily this go-round than the last go-round. So, yeah. Durant, that whole talk about him being the best on the plan, he had a chance, with Curry not being out. He looked more layman, Durant did, during that Curryless span than anything else. So I still don't think that it's a problem. I don't think the Spurs might win 2 games, maybe. They maybe might win 2 games, and then that'd be a wrap. We slide on over back to the East to finish things out with the number 2 ranked Boston Celtics and the number 7 ranked, or seeded, should I say. I don't know why I keep saying ranked. I still got them NCAA brackets that got busted early on my mind. The number 7 Milwaukee Bucks. Listen, man. Kyrie, well, we all know the story. Gordon Hayward goes down early. Then Kyrie. So despite losing their main acquisitions in both Hayward and Kyrie for the season, them Celtics young dogs, or young cats, Tatum, Brown, and Rozier, man, them dudes helped carry the load in the absence of Hayward and Kyrie. They finished with 55 on the season, man. And the crazy part is they still managed to fill the season ranked number 3 in points allowed, right at about 100. In other words, they still play D. And when you hang your hat on stops, y'all done heard me say it again, anything can happen. That's why you still got to play it out. That's what all of this is about. Excuse me. You still got to play it out. It's fun to make predictions and prognosis. Hey, he going to be this, and he going to be that, and he going to do this, and he going to do that. But listen, man, the ball still got to go up. Still got to go up. They scary. Okay? They might not be the ones you can hang your hat on. You might not go put no money down on them like you would have maybe if Hayward and Kyrie had still been there. And everybody talk about coaching. Well, I mean, my goodness, Brad Stevens, if no other coach is more worthy of that coaching matters, it's Brad Stevens. And he going to have these dudes ready to play, whoever it is. I think they beat Milwaukee. Even though the Bucks match up well with anybody because of their size, but size don't win games. Not by itself. What you doing with that size? Okay? Speed. Speed don't win games. What you doing with that speed? Do you know when to turn it up, turn it down, turn it on, turn it off with that speed? Because too often their play is anything but worth watching. Giannis Antetokounmpo is an immense talent who, like most cats who handle the ball all the doggone time, needs to play without the ball if Fear the Deer is to be taken serious. him playing 1-on-5, because that's what it looked like when he got the ball in his hands, and you give up 106 a game, the same amount as you get, that's not a good sign. He got to get the ball out of his hands, man. Can't let him just roam and rip and run. You can't let him do that. He's more effective, especially at his height, without the ball. That being said, I am so forward to looking to this year's playoffs because if nothing else, they have to be better played than last year's. Feel me? And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. Appreciate y'all for listening. Hey, don't forget to check us out right here on Spreaker.com/The Shop Report for our latest and greatest podcast. Give us a follow when you get there. But in the meantime, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes. Or email us, theshopreport365@gmail.com. And y'all know what it is. If that don't work, Google it. I'm Barbershop Jay. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla.